inspections of all items on the public agenda from the street and surrounding area and/or electronically. We have been provided with an assessment report prepared by council staff who have also briefed the panel on each application. Today we have a number of people registered to address the panel at the public meeting. The order of speakers for each item will be firstly objectors and then those supporting the application, including the applicant and their representatives. One speaker per property will be given 3 minutes. A time sign or council staff will indicate at the end of your 3 minutes. Any extension of time will be at my discretion as chair. The panel has been provided with copies of all the submissions received in response to the public exhibition of the application and forwarded a copy of any late correspondence. Therefore, there is no need for speakers to repeat all the points made in those submissions or by previous speakers. Please focus on the key points you wish us to understand and consider. The applicant may wish to address the issues raised in the council's report, including the response to conditions or reasons for refusal and any issue raised by an objector. We may ask questions of the speakers to clarify our understanding of what is being said. We expect that each speaker will be heard in silence while they're addressing the panel and that courtesy and respect will be observed throughout this teleconference. I ask that everyone mutes their microphones unless they are called on to speak, noting that we have the ability to mute any individual. After hearing from speakers on all items, the public meeting will be closed and the panel will then deliberate and make our decision. The minutes of the panel decisions, including our reasons, will be available on Council's website as soon as possible. You should be aware that the panel meetings are recorded and audio recordings will be uploaded to Council's website. Each member of the panel has been asked prior to the meeting to advise whether they have a conflict of interest to declare in relation to any item on the agenda. There have been no conflicts declared except Alison Small has declared a conflict of interest in relation to item D1, 247 Military Road, Dover Heights. She will not participate in this matter or in the determination of the application. So we'll now move on to item 1 and Alison will now lead the meeting. So in relation to item 1, we have a couple of objectors, Natalie Richer on behalf of Mrs. Agranat, if you're there.
Yes, good afternoon, Chair, panel members, staff and community members. My name is Natalie Richter, Town Planner on behalf of Mr. and Mrs. Agranat, who own number 11A George Street and number 7 Bulga Road, Dover Heights, and live at number 11A George Street. We've provided a map of the relationship of these properties to the subject development site within our written submission. These properties adjoin the subject site directly to the rear and are topographically lower and vulnerable to the height and scale. Existing balconies and windows across the rear elevation of the existing building of the subject building face towards the rear elevation, windows and private open space areas of number 11A George Street and into the back garden of 7 Bulga Road. Our submission provides details and a point form summary of concerns. To summarise, the proposed building additional rear-facing floor with rear-facing balcony would add to the already large scale of the building. The addition proposes indoor and outdoor living areas facing into the rear elevations of these homes and their private open spaces. These homes already experience scale and visual and acoustic privacy impacts from the existing building, and this would be worsened by the proposed additional floor, which we're looking at. The rear elevation of our client's home, deck, living areas and pool area are already directly affected by the proposal, and the photographs within our submission show that the rear elevation of the subject building can already view into our client's private open space areas and windows. We support the recommendation as we consider that it is unreasonable to add an uncharacteristic and non-compliant additional floor to the building where there are direct acoustic privacy, scale, light and sunlight impacts. Also, when this is not in context with the desired outcomes for the R2 zone. The proposal seeks considerable height and floor space variations to the appropriate development standards for this setting. And these variations are not considered reasonable, where detrimental amenity impacts will be imposed on vulnerable low-density properties. Thank you for considering our submissions.
Thank you. Then on behalf of the applicant, we have Yvette Middleton.
Good afternoon, panel. I'm Yvette Middleton. I'm a town planner and former registered architect, and I'm here speaking on behalf of the applicants. The first point is the site has existing use rights, so council accepts that, and that does not then derogate from the rights to use the site in terms of height and FSR. The height increase is 400 millimetres. That's about the height of the seat that you're sitting on at the moment. The character is eclectic. It's a mix of flat roofs, low-pitched, gabled and hip roofs, and accommodation such as houses, RFBs and duplexes. So it's quite varied. Our view analysis and modelling prepared by Urbane showed 10 different positions along Military Road, which clearly demonstrated that the additional height and alteration to the roof pitch will not significantly affect views. Neighbours will continue to enjoy fabulous ocean views. There's a really minor reduction for the top floor of number 245 of buildings in Vaucluse, but the cliffs would remain. If it became a huge issue, then we could delete these side screens to the very modest balcony up there. There's no change to privacy because this is the same number of dwellings, same location of balconies, although the upper floor is now recessed a further 2 metres, and it's a significant reduction from the balcony below, which is currently used. There's already significant mutual overlooking because everybody wants views in that location, and there's landscaping that is not changed, which would prevent any viewing of their pool area. The diagonal lines, I just wanted to point out within the skylights, refer to the hinges of openable roof windows, and these could be a condition of consent. I note that council said that there wasn't sufficient ventilation in that new level. Regarding the height overall in the streetscape, the ridge height is 1.09 metres below that of the neighbouring building at 245. So this means that the height is consistent, compatible, and follows the existing slope through the street. The setback requirements, if you're going to apply the ADG, only 6 metres is required to nearby sites. We've got times that to the rear boundary. Council appears to have misinterpreted DCP section 3C3.6 attic roof design because it says the attic in the report, that the attic must be within the existing roof, but the DCP doesn't actually say that. It talks about contemporary roof forms and excludes flat and skillion, whereas we're proposing mansard, a popular style of roof in Paris, so not really an indicator of poor design. We've carefully assessed it against the DCP and we believe it complies. The height doesn't affect the streetscape, it doesn't affect views, it doesn't affect solar access, it maintains privacy. The attic level is compliant with the DCP. It's a modest addition to the existing dwelling, which was, I should point out, significantly reduced from the pre-DA that our architect had with council, and it was done in response to those council concerns. So if you have any questions, I'm here to answer them for you.
I've got a question. So in terms of, did you actually look at trying to reuse the existing roof form and just provide sort of dormer windows?
I think you could get the minimum 2.4 metre height with that. We had to go a little bit higher just to get that. And the other thing, of course, is if we're going to move the kitchen and living area up there, we needed a little bit more width. So consequently, that had to change a little bit to get that in there. But it's not, it's a mansard roof, so it is pitched still and not that big a departure. I'd refer you to the Urbane drawings, which show really well the context in the streetscape. They're the view analysis ones that I mentioned.
Yeah. Right. Any other questions from panel members? No. All right, so as I said in my opening, we'll deal with this in our closed session at the end of the meeting, so thank you to the speakers. The next matter is item 2.1, apartment 3.1 Roscoe Street, Bondi Beach. And we have an objector, Ms. Jan Ringgross, if you're there. So we've got, we also need to inform Alison that she needs to come back into the meeting. Yeah, thanks. All right, is Ms. Ringgross there? Doesn't appear to be. So we'll move on to Mr. Mark Hudson.
Hi, Annalise, thank you. And to panel members, my name is Mark Hudson. I'm the owner of Unit 13 in the neighbouring property 117 to 119 Wellington Street. Whilst it's not material to this meeting, I'm also happen to be the chair of the Strata Committee as well. And a volunteer job of, anyway, not a great job still. The purpose of me joining the call today was to object to the recommendation that this application be approved. With respect of my objection, 3 points that I'd like to make, please. First of all, in the applicant's written request, there are some points there. I think it's clause 4.6, section 3, part 2, which talks about the shadows, and the last sentence of that statement in the written request is that no part of the shadow introduces additional overshadowing to habitable rooms or the existing terraces. I draw the panelists' attention to my written response on page 4, where it clearly shows there will be an impact to shadowing of the existing terrace. And that photo, for reference, and not to repeat myself too much, is taken on Anzac Day at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I respect Council's requirement to have shadow diagrams conducted on the shortest day of the year, the winter solstice. But as you can see from this date, the shortest day of the year doesn't have much of an impact on the neighbouring property, but the other 364 days might. And this day certainly is a yes, and the other months either side of this day certainly do have an impact, which is why we place our outdoor table on that balcony in the sun so that it maximises its sunshine throughout the day. So I just wanted to state that that is not a correct statement, and in fact, we do have overshadowing impact on our private balcony, which leads me to the second point, privacy. The same written statement on section 4, part 4, I should say, talks about the development does not introduce any additional privacy impacts. Whilst that is factually correct, it is rather misleading in that the use of a habitable, or the placement or the construction of a habitable room on the roof would mean that it is an intensification of use, which means we are much more likely to have people, anyone, walking out onto the balcony and looking directly down onto my family's balcony and balconies below. So to say that it's doesn't introduce any privacy impacts, I think belies the true impact to us as a neighbour. I've been there for over 10 years now. And having parties up there and so forth is what you would get in Bondi, but to have someone who gets up there and has their morning coffee and looking over your balcony isn't quite the same. I bought that property with that privacy in mind. And the third final point, which I'm not even sure is stands up in court, is that my property would obviously, because of these two other impacts, diminish in value somewhat. And it appears to be because I'm at the expense of the increase in value next door. And that just doesn't sound right when the place next door has been there for coming up 20 years, hasn't been a problem for that long. Why now? So they're my 3 points: shadow, privacy, and the impact on value. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any questions from panel members?
No. I don't, no.
All right, I'll just check again if Ms. Ringgross is now here or no. So on behalf of the applicant, we have Keith Levitt.
Apologies, Annalise. Jan Ringgross just entered the meeting.
Okay, so Jan, if you're there, can you tell us your concerns? Jan Ringgross, if you're there, can you please, it's your turn now to speak.
It's showing up that Jan is in the meeting room.
No, I can see the name, but she's on mute.
Could the administrator unmute her? That is possible.
Unmute. Thank you. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. So it's your turn to speak. So you've got 3 minutes.
I'm sorry, I didn't, my thing went off on me. I couldn't get through here.
Okay.
Basically, you received my last note of a couple of days ago. My concerns are, I do not at all agree with Mr. Levitt's statement that there's no impact. He clearly is taking my view, as you can see from photos that I put in, from my large balcony attachment area straight across to Rose Bay. Now, we did put in submissions with photos of the trees, which are also absolutely growing. And here's page 59 proposal image. Already, the trees are higher than what he has represented as the proposed image. And I don't believe the building is appropriately as high as it's intended to be. He came initially saying that he was putting up a wardrobe. It was a wardrobe and storage area. And now it's clearly a self-contained unit, which is, to have a kitchen, bathroom, day bed, he called it, and a separate access and gym and large entertainment area is completely its own self-contained unit on top of their existing unit. That does, I believe, unreasonably reduce the amenity enjoyed by our adjoining properties, with the overview that he will then accentuate by having the top area being such a readily accessed and constantly accessed area. It intrudes on our swimming pool area, it intrudes on our private space through the entire common property area. And as far as saying that there's no light impact, that's totally incorrect. I mean, if you stand in a shopping centre, if you're in a line in a shopping centre and a 7-foot man stands next to you, you can't tell me that doesn't increase his towering over you effect and light impact on you. It's not a case of whether the sun is directly in your eyes. It's if you put on a cap. It's not a case of the sun being in your eyes. It's a case of the light not accessing. And now that's pertinent to no less than 8 units in this block. Now, how that could be perceived as being of a public interest, I'm flabbergasted. I can't for the life of me understand how that could possibly be regarded as a public interest. Also questioning the height, a habitable area, I was of the belief it was meant to be 2.7 metres. And that the 2.4 that he suggested in his plan was only if it was not a habitable area. But now once you've put a kitchen and a bathroom in there, is that not its own unit? Is that not regarded as a habitable area? In which case his intention would then have to become to increase it that extra 300 mil, which then is clearly even worse invasion of our privacy and intruding on our space. More than that, you've seen my affidavit, you've seen my photos. You know, he can say till he's blue in the face that it's not an intrusion, but after living here for 20 years and knowing full well that the developers of this site and his site were in court to even get the lift well up that high, the return, a lift return does not constitute, it has to be accepted. It is a reason, it is a valid reason, but an extra unit, an extra floor.
I'll just have to interrupt you there because your time is up. Have you got much more to say?
No, I think everything I need to say has been said. I'm sorry to feel.
No, that's fine. That's fine. All right, I'll just check if any of the panel members have any questions. Any questions?
No.
No? All right. So now on behalf of the applicant, we have Mr. Keith Levitt.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
All right. I'm not used to this. Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you and we can hear you. So your
sorry, it's
time
my
is
first
started.
ever time on Zoom, so not really sure how it works. Yes, I'm the applicant. My daughter has actually lived there since 2004. She's been there 16 years. She is a single woman who doesn't have any parties, doesn't have any children, and unfortunately has issues where she's never been able to work either. So my problem is I'm happy with the planner and the report she's done. She's been very pleasant to work with. I was a developer for 40 years and have had many DAs and many issues, and this planner has been very good. I do have a problem though with if it does get approved, the plant box that she is suggesting as the condition of consent. It is impossible to comply and get a construction certificate with that because, as you know, to get the construction certificate, you have to comply with the BCA or NCC. And she has suggested doing a 1 metre wide planter box right around the perimeter of the outdoor area at a height of 0.6. Now that makes it impossible to comply with the BCA because then you've only got 0.4 to the top of the parapets when anybody could climb up onto that planter box and fall over the edge. So it also reduces by, the only way you could do it is to put the planter boxes 0.9 away from the wall. Then you lose 3.6 metres from the side of each unit, each wall. Daughter's lived there for 16 years. She has a very large terrace. If she was going to party, which seems to be the objection, she would have been partying by now. I have never been invited to a party on her rooftop. I think she's had 2. The neighbour, Mr. Hudson, who's a very nice man, in his report even said that in the time he's been there, he's never even seen her or rarely seen her out on the balcony. So I don't really understand his objection that he's worried that she's going to now start looking down into his unit. There's total privacy. It was designed with highlight windows on the eastern side so no one can look down into his apartment. The addition, if approved, already reduces the entertaining area by 30 square metres. So the reduction is not required by the planter boxes. I note that Janet Ringrose, who spoke, has an incredibly large balcony area, much larger than the one that is in this instance. And I think Mr. Hudson's got one pretty big as well. Now, there's no requirement by council at any time that these 2 people have to reduce their entertaining area in the fear that someone in the future may come along and have a party up there. She is not a party girl and that will not happen. Now, council may want to consider future residents. Well, I can't see my daughter moving out of there for many reasons, and that's why we're trying to improve the amenity for her. The gymnasium is because she has heart problems and she has to exercise. There's nowhere really in her existing apartment to put a treadmill. So giving the terminology of a gymnasium was a bit of a mistake because it's conveyed the wrong idea. There is not a bathroom up there. There's a shower and a toilet. I offered to the planner that if people were concerned about it being for a separate occupation, we would remove the shower. She doesn't require that. I've said that we can put a bylaw onto the title preventing any future occupation, and then the other 2 occupants of the building can enforce that if so be, if there's any parties or any noise.
Mr. Levitt, I'll have to interrupt you there. Your time's up. So have you got much more to say?
No, but just so that we can't get around the building, and I'm happy to can't get to the air conditioners, you can't get to the hot water services. We can restrict it getting around the side of the building by putting up a gate there, a lockable gate, but that's about all, I suppose. Thank you.
Right, any questions from the panel members?
Yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, Mr. Brennan?
Yeah, Mr. Levitt, just on the choice of materials, looking at the plans, you propose to use a lightweight construction, I suppose, weatherboard. Have you looked at other alternatives like, lightweight masonry, like Hebel blocks? Weatherboard, to me, elevated at that height, looks like to me, it looks like a garden shed or a garage on top of a masonry flat building.
Yeah, the history of that is when we put in the initial application, quite some time ago, it was a boring old box building, and council came back and said it wasn't innovative enough and could we do something different. So we sort of copied the style that was down on the hotel there, down in Bondi, which has these bunker style buildings. It's not weatherboard, it's actually a curved colorbond roof. So I don't know where the weatherboard bit is coming from. The Hebel blocks, no, the council didn't want that. They didn't want a square boring box on top of the building. That's why we amended it.
I think that perhaps the issue that we're having is that it's actually from the drawings unclear what the materials are. So I don't know if you've got your plans in front of you, but if you
No, I haven't.
The west elevation seems to have, there's a note that says metal deck roofing, colorbond finish, but there's no arrow that actually points where that's meant to go.
All right, so no, that whole roof and going down that side is all one piece of curved metal bond roofing.
Yeah. And then on the east elevation, it's got highlight windows, but it doesn't say what's underneath it, and it's what's underneath it is not shaded.
Oh, okay, so that then would be a masonry type wall, block wall. But no, sorry, Mr. Hudson may be able to look up and see that, but mainly he'll just see the highlight windows because the main thing there is the lift well and the fire stairs that you would see.
Yeah. I mean, I think what the panel would need, if this were to be approved, would be a proper materials schedule so that there's actually something that does indicate what the materials are, where they're to be located.
I had a question when you said it doesn't comply if you put a metre wide planter box around the edge, won't comply with BCA, because if the wall in front of the planter box is 1040, which complies, and you've got a metre deep planting, why would that not comply?
Well, the one that's requested at the moment, the existing parapet walls around the perimeter of the building are the legal height. It's one and a bit.
1080.
Yes. Now, if you put a 600 high planter box built up against that, you've only
you've got to build a wall in front of it that's 1080, that's a brick wall, and fill it with dirt.
Yes, but then you won't be able to get into the garden. If you've got a building down there 600 high and a 1 metre high wall in front of it, you've got a 400 mil depth getting down to get to the plantation. And I don't see the point of why we have to reduce the area. There's like, by the time you put up there a table and chairs and a lounge.
It's privacy, and also by having planting there, you're not actually seeing what people are doing. That's the reason.
Okay, the only privacy is there were no objections from Wellington Street for any privacy issues. Mr. Hudson made objections on privacy. Require a privacy screen along the eastern boundary, but then Mr. Hudson would be unhappy because I think he gets a view there across to the harbour, so he wouldn't want to have that view blocked out. But I'm happy to put a privacy screen up if that's the issue. There's no issue of looking down into Wellington Street because you're not looking into anyone's yards. And they didn't object. I don't think there was one objection from Wellington Street about any privacy or noise issues.
Okay.
All right, any other questions?
Yeah, Mr. Levitt, you went some way to explaining the proposed use of it, because I was quite confused, because in the clause 4.6 objection prepared by your planning consultant, they talked about it being a separate unit, affordable housing, that type of thing. So clearly it is not your intention or your daughter's intention to use this space as a separate domicile?
100% guarantee. I don't know where that affordable housing came from. And the other two owners of the building would kill her if she did that. It's never, in its whole 16 years, there's never been anyone apart from my daughter living there on her own. So we're not, she's not going to put tenants or Airbnb, and the restrictions are, we're happy to put a bylaw that it's can't be, and the owners corporation would enforce that very stringently.
All right, any further questions?
I don't.
Okay, thank you. So as I've said before, this matter will be dealt with in our the panel's deliberations. The next item is item 3, which is 8 Jackman Street, Birmingham. And we have an objector, Laura Huxtable, if you're there.
Hello, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Oh. Hello, panel. As you said, my name is Laura Huxtable, and our family home is 74 Watson Street. So we live directly behind number 8 Jackman Street, where the new development is currently being built. The new development looks straight into our garden and home. 56 people objected to the size of this original development, but it went through. This new amendment to the application is to allow the property to be just even that little bit bigger in height and size. In fact, the increase proposed takes the floor space ratio to 47% above council guidelines. I'd really like the panel to consider why they're approving something that takes a floor space ratio to above 47% of local guidelines. This development is already encroaching on our family and home's privacy visually and with noise, and the increase proposed will cast a shadow on our backyard in the morning. Please can the council not permit any further increase in height or reduction of the rear setback by increasing the back bedrooms? So please can they reject that and not increase the floor space ratio to 47% above council guidelines? Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions from the panel?
I don't know.
No, thank you. The next speaker is Jay Van Heist, if you're there.
Hi, yes, I'm here. Julia speaking.
Thank you.
Good afternoon to you all. I'm actually really just speaking to second Laura Huxtable's comments, as I'm a neighbour as well. I'm at 70 Wilson Street. So the property in question is diagonally backs onto our property, and my concern is over the additional extension posing a visual privacy issue, because we are all at a second-story level, we're all to each other's bedrooms, and as the street is being cleared off that property, the further expansion of that bedroom on the second story or third story will encroach privacy issues. Thank you.
Thank you. You were breaking up a little bit, so I just want to make sure that I've heard what you were saying. So your main concern is about the extension of the bedroom?
That's correct.
Okay. And that's in terms of increased bulk and privacy impacts? Is that your concern? Yes. Yeah. Okay. Panel members, any questions?
No.
Thank you. So they're the speakers for that item. So I'll just check. Was the applicant speaking on that item as well?
Yes, I'm here, Peter Duffy.
Okay, Mr. Duffy, if your turn now.
Yeah, good afternoon, panel. Thank you for your time.
Yeah.
I don't have anything more to add over and above what's in the accounts report, but of course I'm available here if there are any questions from the panel.
All right, so just specifically in terms of what's been raised by the objectors in relation to increasing the bedroom, what do you have to say about, and
Yes.
that you're already over the floor space ratio and this will further exacerbate that?
No, on the issue of the main reason on the floor space ratio is a slight increase into what is the master bedroom up has been referred to. That's just to make that room a little bit more livable. We do have surrounded on the east and the western side, on the western side, which is the backyard side, rooftop garden and plant there as part of that. We're still within the predominant rear setback area as well. So based on that, that's the slight modification to that room.
All right, any questions from the panel members?
Just how much further is it the bedrooms in the rear extended?
It's approximately about 1 metre, 1,000 millimetres. Yeah.
Yep. And one other question: what is the rear setback with the extensions that you propose? How far from the rear boundary is it?
Oh, sorry, I don't know that at the top of my head, but it's yeah, I'd have to take that on board as a question, get back to you on that. It's well within the predominant and advice we've had, well within the predominant rear setback boundaries from the surrounding properties. I'd have to look at my drawings for that.
So sorry, just looking at, I think it's drawing number 1040.
Yep.
So that shows the relationship to adjoining properties.
Yes.
So the property
To the south.
to the south, what's the setback of that? Like, it doesn't, like, just looking at that drawing, it doesn't look as if it's in the same alignment. It looks like pavers are in the same alignment or similar alignment. The property to the north seems to have a similar rear setback line, but can you just explain
Yes.
that?
Yes, well, I think the setback was extended also to the two adjoining properties on either side as well, and it was to be contained within that rear setback.
So a property, the second property further to the south has a setback that's similar to yours?
Yeah, with the discussions had with council on that is the predominant setbacks with at least two properties on either side to the north and to the south.
All right, any further questions?
And sorry, just on the, you raised the question about the FSR. The site has been approved for a Torrance title subdivision, and based on that fact, each of the duplexes floor space ratio was calculated, and there is a formula when the lot size is 254 square metres, and in such case it comes, I think, to about 0.83 is the FSR allowed, and we're actually coming in under that for each of those duplexes.
Okay. Any further questions?
No.
No, I don't.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The next item is item 4, which is 157 to 159 Military Road, Dover Heights. At the moment, we have no registered speakers, but we were interested if the applicant was there because we had some questions. So I don't know if anyone from ABC Planning is present.
I'm present.
So that's Mr. Anthony Betros, is that correct?
Sorry, that's correct.
Yeah, okay.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
So I think the questions that we had, to some extent, related to, I'm just trying to remember what we were going to ask you. So that's in terms of the increased or the reduction in the roof garden and what you're achieving in terms of whether you're still achieving that break in the building and also the light, the lift lobby, whether those sorts of things are still going to be achieved.
Sure. In the statement of effects, we provided a comparison between the approved plans and the proposed. I'm not sure if you've got access to that, but it's sort of for me, it's easier to then describe the before and after outcomes.
Yeah.
If I can take you to,
I think we've been sent the original plans, but whether there's a way of putting them up on the screen, is that?
Oh, okay, sorry, I've just pulled over. I've got the SEE in front of me. I'm not sure if you've got access to that.
Do the council office have the original plans that we could put on the screen?
I can address it without it if you like.
Yeah.
That particular issue.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there was. I was involved in the original application, and it was very much pulled in to the bare minimum, if I could put it that way. In my opinion, the addition of a bedroom to Unit 2 within that roof garden area still maintains quite a substantial break and articulation of the built form as viewed from Blake Street. If you visited the site, you would have noted that immediately opposite is quite a distinct staggered built form that's substantially greater in scale and length than this built form. So in my opinion, the integrity and intent of the original design was maintained. You'll note from the lobby on the southern side that there is also quite an expanse of openness to daylight and ventilation. So you'll see on the south side. So
okay.
The experience in the lobby would not necessarily be adversely affected, notwithstanding the change on the northern side, in my opinion.
And the other question I think we had was in relation to the original approval had a voluntary planning agreement for the floor space ratio that was above the control. And this further increases the amount of floor space or GFA above the control. So presumably there'd be an amendment to that VPA?
I think under the policy that if it's below a certain amount, like an increase threshold, you don't require any addition. But I think the applicant would be happy to agree to it if it meant the difference between an approval or refusal. I just thought, in particular, sorry, just going back to that first point, that the provision of the potential to provide an additional bedroom accommodation in such a well-located area just seems an excellent opportunity, whilst maintaining the integrity of the original approval.
All right, any other questions from the panel members?
No.
No, because I think you answered about the light in the lobby, so. No.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Betras.
Thank you very much, panel.
The next item, item 5, 292 to 302 Oxford Street, Bondi Junction. And we have a number of representatives of the applicant. I presume you don't all want to speak. You're just here to answer questions, or is there someone that wished to speak on your behalf? You're on mute.
I believe Richard's going to speak.
Okay.
Yes, can you hear me now, guys?
We can hear you're a bit faint, but.
Okay, let me see. So hi, my name's Jonathan Richards. I'm design consulting architect for the project. I have behind me a team of client and project architects. This is a follow-up submission after a WLPP meeting from September. It involved the amalgamation of the apartments on level 2 and 3. I guess what I'd like to do is just talk very briefly about how we've responded to that meeting The first part is that we have withdrawn the amalgamation of the apartments on level 2 from this application. So we're only talking about the amalgamation of apartments on level 3. And the panel's key concerns at the last meeting related to acoustic privacy and visual privacy. And since that meeting, we've done quite a lot of work in addressing those two items. If I start with acoustic privacy, and this is privacy across the courtyard in the middle of the floor plate. To deal with the acoustic privacy, we have engaged Acoustic Logic, who has done a report, which you would have seen as part of this application, and we have lined 3 sides of the internal courtyard with acoustic baffling material that addresses the shortened distance between the apartments. So as you know, with the ADG, it stipulates 12 metres. It's roughly half that distance, and to make up for the shortfall in the acoustic attenuation, Acoustic Logic have designed a lining to the courtyard that will provide the same equivalent amount of acoustic attenuation as that 12-metre distance. The other key item was visual privacy, and for that, that acoustic lining also becomes sliding screens to the apartment of 306 that allows flexibility for the owners in that apartment to open up or close down the visual connection across the courtyard. On the northern side of the that internal courtyard is apartment 303, and that has 2 windows which are obscured glass up to 1.6 as per a condition of consent. So the acoustic attenuation has been addressed by the lining and getting Acoustic Logic to submit a report, and the visual privacy has been addressed also by sliding screens, the setback of the balcony for apartment 306 on the southern side of the courtyard, and the obscure glazing on the northern side for apartment 303. We've reviewed the recommendations by the planner in the report for this meeting, and we just wanted to say that we support the recommendations.
All right, any questions from the panel members? I've got a question. Sorry, yes?
Yes, after you.
Okay.
The balcony, sorry.
You go, Graham.
The balcony for apartment 306 that adjoins the light well, what is the treatment on the edge of that balcony where it adjoins the light well?
It has an open aluminium sliding screen. So they're aluminium buttons that slide open.
So they're full height, or they?
Correct, they're full height, yeah.
Okay.
So following on from that balcony, I understand that forms part of the approval that you've already got. But it would appear that the balcony actually reduces the amenity of the bedroom to unit 3.06. And it also means that you can, if you're using it exacerbates this idea about the separation between living areas and habitable rooms in apartment 303 and 306. So, and it also seems to introduce a slab that, which if it wasn't there, would provide potentially more amenity to the apartment below. So do you have any comments about whether that balcony, I don't know whether you've already constructed it or what the situation is, but whether that balcony could actually be removed and whether that would potentially increase the amenity to
Well, I guess the first point is that immediately below on level 2 is commercial. It's not another apartment. And we actually felt as though it was increasing the amenity for that bedroom on the back side. It is the second bedroom. The first bedroom is facing the street. But to have an outdoor space there, we felt actually with the daylight as well, improves that bedroom.
Doesn't it just take further away from the light source? And you're going to have, I mean, the aluminium screens can be open, but you've still got.
Yeah, I mean, it does have a setback. You're right, in some ways it does have a setback from that edge, but having a flexible screen there that can open up, it's still giving in a good amount of light, particularly given that it is one facing north, so that you're going to get you get nice light coming through. Oh yeah. So, and the other point the guys are making is it's just that one level of balconies. There's none above that.
Mr. Richards, my concern is the use of that balcony. I mean, if it was used, it's a potential source of noise.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not asking for it to be removed. I'm probably making it the suggestion that it should be not used as a balcony, but simply as a space to provide light and air to two bedrooms. I mean, you have two generous balconies at the other end of the unit. I just think it doesn't have a lot of amenity for a balcony when you do have two quite generous balconies at the other end of the unit. I mean, my thoughts are that it should not be used as a balcony, but it largely should remain the way it is. Right. I just think the source of noise from people standing on that balcony is a potential source of annoyance for other people on the other side of the light wall. Anyway, look, that's only my thoughts, and I'm one of four, so.
Okay. No, I appreciate it. Okay, well, I think there has been, I guess my only response to that is that there was a fair bit of work put into the acoustic attenuation again of that whole void. But certainly having an outdoor space does give people the opportunity to step outside. So there's that can possibly happen. But there has been, so far as the attenuation and the landscaping, that's another sort of important point of that space, that it has quite a sort of lovely amenity, and being able to step outside for that apartment was important.
All right, any further questions from the panel members?
No, I don't.
No.
All right, well, there are questions. So
okay. Thank you.
That concludes that.
Thank you, panel. If I just might make one quick observation, if
if
the panel are of a mind that the balcony remains an issue, I'd ask you to deal with it by condition rather than further delay it by refusal.
All right, so even though the balcony has been approved and doesn't actually form part of this modification, you'd be happy for some sort of condition?
No, well, I'll leave it in the hands of the panel. We'd prefer to keep it as approved because we believe that the 6 dBA reduction in noise that is achieved by the acoustic report is more than adequate.
Yes, but if it came to the crunch of getting a approval and a refusal, you would agree with a condition that potentially changed that balcony?
I'll ask the clients who are with Richard to confirm that.
Yes, that's fine.
All right, thank you very much. So that concludes the public meeting, and as I've said, the panel will deliberate on this matter and make its decisions, and those decisions and our reasons for decisions will be put on the council's website as soon as possible.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.